Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Destination Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Stoker. Really excited for today's show. We've got a great guest. Her name's Megan Buchbinder, and I'll bring her in just a few minutes. But before I do, I have a topic that I wanted to chat with everybody about. I think if you've been listening to the show for a while, you've probably heard me. I'm on this kick right now that I just can't seem to shake, and that's the fact that I'm really concerned that a lot of destinations have been built for the illusion of relevance as opposed to actual relevance and value to the community. And once I kind of opened my eyes to that, I've seen all these red flags that make me really nervous for where a lot of us are going in the industry. And just to give you a brief kind of taste of what I mean by that, we have really boiled down, because it was helpful in our meetings with our board and things like that. We've boiled down our value to website traffic. And we also have used referral traffic to our partners to talk about our value to our partners. And, when traffic was continuously going up and up and up and up, well, that was fantastic, right? But then when traffic goes down, all of a sudden it causes some major issues for those who have built their entire value proposition to their stakeholders on website traffic specifically. And as I've dug into that, one of the things that I'm really concerned about is I think there's a lot of destination marketers that don't truly understand the difference between capturing demand and creating demand. And in order to be a good marketer and to communicate your relevance and value correctly, you have to know the difference. And so today in this monologue, I want to talk about the major distraction that is Google Ads for destination marketing organizations. When you really dig into what Google Ads are, they are a product of the fact that we love to have metrics that we can share with our stakeholders to say, we brought you this much value in the form of web traffic. Well, Google Ads is a great way to capture that web traffic. But there's one really big problem with Google Ads. Google Ads are a result of a search. And what that means is there was already intent of some shape or form. There was already demand when the Google search took place. So when destination marketing organizations run Google Ads, in a lot of cases, they are not creating new demand. They are capturing existing demand. And I think that's a really dangerous place to be, and I'll go through a couple of the reasons that's the case. But I think we've kind of trapped ourselves in this Google death spiral, where it's this it's the drug that we can't get off of because it's the thing that we can get the traffic with. It's a faucet that you can turn on, you get the traffic, you get the value, and I'm not sure that that's going to be able to continue to tell the same story as time goes on, because now what we're dealing with is a scenario where searches have been captured by a lot of AI platforms, and the percentage of searches taking place in Google is going down significantly, which means if we're spending the same amount on Google, we're likely to have our expenses go up. We're likely to not be able to capture the same amount of demand that we've been capturing before with Google Ads. And I think that's going to be a real cliff, a real problem for destination marketers out there. The other thing that I don't think a lot of those that are running Google Ads are really thinking through is the damage that it actually does to your stakeholders. Because every single stakeholder in your destination is hoping to capture the transaction, right? You've got the lodging partners, you've got the restaurant partners, you've got the attractions, and everybody, when there's demand, everybody wants to capture that demand. When you are buying Google Ads, you are actually driving up the price because it's a bidding process. So you're driving up the price for your stakeholders to capture that demand. And you may capture that demand to your website. Your stakeholders are also running Google Ads because they want to capture it individually. And what if you actually took interest or demand from a stakeholder and transferred it to someone else who's more prominent on your website, and now you're actually competing with those stakeholders who you've been commissioned to serve? And I just think that as we continue to get into all the questions about, wait a second, hold on, what is the DMO's job? When people start to dissect that, and then they start to look at the reports that we're giving, calculated on website traffic, somebody's going to say, wait a second, guys, aren't you just capturing the demand that was already there? Isn't the destination's role to inspire and encourage visitation, to create new demand? Because the reality is, if Google Ads were the answer to the demand problem, would a DMO really need to exist? And I think that's the important question that all of us need to ask, because if the answer was Google Ads, all of our individual stakeholders would just capture that demand on their own. The question is, am I creating additional searches? Am I inspiring people to have intent to come to my destination? That results in additional searches. So the metric that I actually think is more valuable for a DMO to be tracking is number of searches related to the destination, as opposed to number of clicks from the Google Ads that we're running. And with that, I think I'll wrap up my soapbox here, and I want to bring in Megan. Megan, I would love to have you maybe react to the comments that I've had, and what your thoughts are on how we've built our relevance structure with our partners in the DMO space.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And honestly, every time we talk, I'm like, always have a pen handy, so I can be like, I like that. I like how you phrase things really well. That's honestly, I think, especially from someone who leads marketing in a DMO, that's one of the top things we're always looking at is how do we create KPIs that matter, not just to our stakeholders, because truthfully, I don't know about a lot of other people, but the majority of our stakeholders don't ask or don't care. Like they want to, what they're looking at is I was slow this season. I wasn't last season, or my revenue was this last month. It was this. So they're not measuring our success by the KPIs we're sending out. Why are we measuring our success by those KPIs then? So I think it's the marriage between justifying your spend, because obviously we all have marketing budgets, and so you have to justify that spend somehow, but it has to also be in an accountability way, so we can track it, but then in a really effective way, which is kind of more of what you're talking about of rethink. Especially like the Google Ads. I have a love-hate relationship with Google Ads in the destination I'm in now, because I represent 4 destinations in one. And that strategy drives me crazy. So like it's because we cannibalize each other, and in some instances. So exactly what you were talking about. So it definitely is I think a hot button topic, whether we know we're dealing with it or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and if it's not a hot button topic today, it will be at some point if we've built our relevance off of those types of metrics that come from Google Ads and other related sources. So I agree with you, and what you said about you've got 4 destinations that you represent. If all of them are buying Google Ads, now we're bidding ourselves up, not to mention our stakeholders. And so, yeah, I think it's a really good point. I'd love to have you, Megan, maybe just share a little bit about you and your background. You and I had the opportunity to meet a few weeks ago in person. I was able to come to Wilmington and hang out with you there for a little while, and really enjoyed my time in Wilmington. But you and I connected because you moved from one role and took on a much larger role, and are looking to shake things up, I believe is the language you used in the first message where we connected. And so I'd love to hear your background, your journey, and then I want to hear how you're shaking things up.
Yeah. Well, again, thanks for this platform. It's always nice to chat with you. I've been in the DMO space, I guess, of this industry for going on 6-7 years now. Hospitality is not new to me. I worked in it actually in North Carolina. My first career was, but more on the attraction side of things, and not necessarily in the DMO. But I moved to Springfield, Missouri, from Boone, North Carolina, when I was like pretty early on in my career, and got some agency experience in Springfield. Had a great, kind of worked and built some more of my marketing. Stumbled into destination marketing, as I feel like a lot of us might do in the beginning of it. Because I think one of the most shocking things about this industry is that no one realizes it's an industry until you're in it.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, you say tourism and people think airlines, hotels, all that kind of stuff, right?
Exactly. So I worked adjacent with Visit Springfield throughout my careers in the agency, as I also worked for a local theater. But I didn't, this is how naive I was. And then I didn't even think about it was bigger than it is. I just got, these are the people that just help the hotels, and attractions. Like, I didn't even think about how it was tied to a much, much, much bigger pie. And when the job came open for their director of marketing, I knew the predecessor, Sean Dixon. He is wonderful. He's now in Topeka, Kansas. But him and I had a good working relationship. Anyway, got into the role, and my eyes, it was also during COVID, which that's how much I didn't know. I was like, I took a tourism job in the middle of COVID. So I mean, please don't hold that one against me, but I that's how unfamiliar I was. And it was within the first couple months, I went to some industry, conferences and things like that my eyes were open, and I was like, this is awesome. I just thought of it as like the best marketing job you could ever have. If you're going to have a marketing job, marketing your community that you love and that you chose, is there a better one? And I still very much believe that. I still very much believe it's the best kind of marketing role you could ever have, is the one promoting the place that you chose to live in. So that's, I started in Springfield, love Springfield so much. They're doing some amazing things out there. If you haven't looked, they just did an awesome campaign around the birthplace of Route 66. So kudos to them. But I'm from North Carolina. My family lives here. Wanted to raise our young family. We have 2 little boys, back closer to family too. So my husband and I, when this job in Wilmington came up, it was kind of a scary no-brainer, but a no-brainer to apply for it. And now I get to raise my family on the coast. And I honestly, it's like a pinch me moment all the time.
I love that. And you and I have had a few parenting conversations, and that's all kinds of challenges and opportunities that come along with parenthood. I'm sure that's an entire podcast episode in and of itself, right?
Flag me for that one whenever you go off on that tangent, because I got thoughts and I have more questions than thoughts. If anyone's happy to share my chaotic experience of raising 2 toddler boys.
Yeah. Parenting in Tourism with Megan Buchbinder coming soon.
Hey, subscriber 1.
I love it. Well, I want to talk about first the transition from, Springfield, Missouri to Wilmington and Beaches and taking on that additional role. I mean, when you mentioned that you got into tourism, you were pretty green when you got in there, right? And now you've taken on a significant role at a really well-known destination. How did you avoid the imposter syndrome that inevitably comes along with that kind of a career jump?
I don't know if you avoid it. I think you just do it anyway. I absolutely had. I had it in Springfield. I have it ebbs and flows here. I think at the same time, it's kind of whenever I get really nervous about speaking or like a speaking engagement, or, I lead a lot of, committee meetings and, board meetings and things like that. And you're always like, you get a little stage fright in that. And then I just remember, they can't ask me any question about what I do that I don't know. Like, it's what I do. And I might not know exactly where they're going, but I can always figure it out. And it's never, so I think it's more of, I looked at Springfield was a completely different destination. But frankly, as I'll stand by it, at the very core, every single destination marketing organization, despite like what you have to market, is the same. You've got the same issues, different capacities. Funding is different. Funding sources are different. Your political and advocacy, plans are different. But at the same time, I mean, that's what I've learned through being in this industry so quickly is, and I'm getting my CDME. I just finished my last class, which is exciting. But what I realized from that is wow, Springfield and Wilmington are very, very different in makeup, but not very different in what our missions are the same.
Yeah.
Like our missions are the same, and how you do it is different. And but it's a unifying standpoint. And I think that's why our industry is so close and so willing to share, is because at the end of the day, it's all very unified in that way. And our troubles are unified, and what we can celebrate is unified too. And so I love being in a destination that is multifaceted. And in makeup of where Wilmington is a historic city, but it is I wouldn't say a big city, but a medium-sized city. And then we have 3 small coastal towns that are 20 minutes drive, from the heart of downtown Wilmington. So it's a very diverse industry and destination. And I love that kind of difference from where I was before. And that has a lot of challenges in and of itself. Hurricanes now are a thing, of course. Where it was tornadoes in Springfield. So it's just one
Everything's
weather.
Bigger, right?
Right.
Even you went from tornadoes to hurricanes. It's bigger now.
Everything is different. Yeah.
Talking about how the mission of the organization is the same, and you're really kind of solving a lot of similar problems, even though the product is different and the circumstances are different. What you actually realize is that leadership is just an exercise in problem solving, and the size and scope of the problems you have the ability to solve is really the only limiting factor in what you can accomplish in any given role, right? And so the imposter syndrome, when we think about it, is like, well, I'm not this, whatever my internal vision of what the ultimate marketer is, right? Like, I'm not that person. But that's actually not what you have to be. You have to be the person capable of solving the problems associated with the role that you've been given, and or that you've earned, I should say. And honestly, I think that once people recognize that, I think you can really squash imposter syndrome, because wait a second, can I solve problems? Yeah, I can. Great, then I'm perfect for the role. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I used to think too that the higher you get in an organization, you've always heard it's like lonely at the top. And I have not experienced that. I don't believe it's just because you're a leader, it means you're isolated. Especially, you can create your own isolation for sure. But I have a great mentor in our CEO here, Kim Huffam, who could give, a master class in relationship building. But also, like, I don't solve any problem alone. Like, there's not one time where I have to make a big decision that I'm not consulting someone else who I feel like would have a different perspective, or has more experience in that area, or is smarter than me in a certain spot. Like, there's never a time where I'm like, done. My opinion is it. Like,
yeah.
I don't call it confidence, or call it just trying to make sure that it's a well-rounded choice. Because we have decision fatigue in this, especially once you get, to a higher leadership position, you can easily get that. And I can't remember the last time I made a decision where I didn't consult somebody, a big decision.
Yeah.
I can make, I can say, choose this color over this.
You do decide where to go for lunch on your own, things like that. Okay.
Exactly. That might be the hardest decision.
Sometimes it really is.
Yeah.
So I really like that. And you've got a great leader above you, you've got great people that you manage, and you're able to kind of involve all of them and make sure that with your collective information and education, you're making the right decision. I think that's a great approach. I want to get into your desire to shake things up when you came into Wilmington. So I guess step one is, well, how did you even know it needed to be shaken up? Step one. And then how did you decide what your methodology was going to be to do just that? Guys, have you adjusted for AI yet? I've talked a lot on this show about the importance of making the transition from tactician to strategist, and we in our organization have really done that. It's actually been really fun to have some of the conversations that I've had with some of the DMOs that we talk to. I've reached out and said, look, we're not chasing agency of record work anymore. We want to be the agency that can help you solve the strategy problem you have not yet solved. And when I've asked that question, we've got one destination who's got us building a LinkedIn strategy for them. Another one has us building a Reddit strategy so they can show up more clearly in the LLMs and make sure they're showing up where the searches are happening. There's another destination that's had us build a corporate partnerships program to help them connect better with the local business community and hopefully generate even some unrestricted funding at that point. If you have a problem that you've not yet solved and you need some help to do it, my team is working on some of the coolest projects I've seen in the industry, and I would love for my team to be able to help you as well. Make sure you reach out to me at adam@thebrandrevolt.com. If you have one of those nagging projects, a problem you've not yet been able to solve, I'm very confident my team can do it. Remember, adam@thebrandrevolt.com. Hit me up. We'll take a look at what you got and see if we can give it a solve.
I don't think it was an intention, is an initial, I got this job and I'm coming to shake things up, because I didn't know. You interview and they're interviewing you, and you don't have a ton of opportunity to get to the truth of the situation in certain areas until you're in it, until you're in the thick of it. Wilmington's was a well-oiled machine. It's a dream to come into one that has a super strong foundation. So, kudos to my predecessor and just the team here who has been here for a long time. But one of the things I noticed when we came here is very quickly, I had a smaller team than I had in Springfield. And that was a little eye-opening to me, coming in and saying, wow, where's the team? Like, where's the marketing team? And I quickly realized it was a really small, really strong couple people, but we were outsourcing everything. And I am a proponent for agency. I will never say agencies are not needed. I believe everyone needs a trusted agency partner or multiple. And they have their spots. But when you're outsourcing things that should come from your own team's, it should be the brainchild of your own team. I noticed that pretty quickly. And our team, I will happily say, has grown to about the equivalent of what it was in Springfield now. And hopefully will continue to do so. But one of the cool things was, they were just underutilized. They were so... Yeah. It is the smartest group of people. And we were not even scratching the surface of what we could do with them and seeing what they could do and truly giving them the opportunity, opening doors for them, taking things from some agencies and building it internal. I not only have I seen that in just effectiveness of content, we have you and I talk about this, a very strong content first approach to our advertising strategy and our overall strategy in general. But professional development has changed, our culture has changed, like all of that has changed. But what that also has changed, it's like, well, we switched that up. So I wouldn't say easily, it was a lot of work, but that wasn't as hard as we thought it was. What other systems are maybe antiquated or things that are not, that we could be doing differently, or let's throw away the we've always done it this way mentality. We had a lot of staff turnover. Thank you. We had a lot of staff either retire, move on, all of these different things. We had 6 new people. We added a number of roles. We added 2 in the marketing team alone. And so we had a lot of new roles, and it was the perfect time to be like, okay, well, and none of them are like industry people. They're all people from the community that have different and diverse thoughts and had the same thought I did when I took the Springfield job, which was like, this is an awesome job, Yeah. So those fresh perspectives then put everything on the table to look at, which has been fun.
So in the examination of what should be outsourced and what shouldn't be, one of the things that I've always really tried to communicate is I don't think a DMO in any capacity, this means like whether you're the CMO or whether you're the content manager, I don't think destinations should outsource vision. And the ones that do, their team essentially ends up neutered and doesn't really have the ability to be creative or push themselves or grow and progress in their roles. They just end up letting the agency have all the fun, right? And so I really feel like outsourcing vision is one of the biggest mistakes an organization can make at any level, because then the agency is the owner of your vision, and that means your vision is essentially the curation of the visions of all these different DMOs and what they've learned from all these different DMOs, and that's when you end up in the sea of sameness. And so I think it's really important that destination marketers own the vision. Don't outsource that. But of course, the vehicle to get there, the strategy by which to get there, all of that is a great opportunity to work with a partner. But if you send the vision out with the RFP, you've now lost control of what you're doing.
Yeah. We notice that so much. We have marketing committees on each beach. And I think it was my second day. And I went to one of the committee meetings at one of the beaches, and the agency talked the whole time. And I just leaned over. I was like, when do we talk to them? when do we? And they were like, well, they know the strategy. They're the ones who talk about it. And so that was one of the things. And honestly, this is the agency was thrilled that they're like, yes, please. That has now changed our relationship with our industry partners. It's changed how, we're on what part of our tourism master plan is community engagement. And I know we'll talk about that later, but positioning us as the expert and knowing when to pull in other experts. I want people to look at our team and say they are the ones who know what they're doing. And they also know when they need to tap into who. And then that helps our agency have credit of like, oh, if they believe in them, then we're good. And it's like a true kind of partnership and extension, as opposed to us not being we are the stewards of place. We are the stewards of the story here. And if we're not the ones leading that and showing the decisions we're making, then it's going to hurt us in the long run. And I think for so long, we just, we focus so much on external, and we focus so much on our mission of driving those visitors to the area for that economic development, that we kind of forgot to look inward a little bit. So it has been a huge transformational year for all of us. Yeah. And I can't honestly believe it's only been a year.
That story for me is just such a great example, because if the agency is doing all the talking in that meeting, which, by the way, I've been put in those positions where we've had to do that because the vision has been outsourced to us in some cases. And the result of that is sooner or later the board or leadership doesn't trust the person who selected the agency, which means if they don't trust the person that selected the agency, they're not going to trust the direction that the agency is taking them. And a lot of times, because that person doesn't have the credibility because they're not owning the vision, the agency actually gets kind of pushed out as a result of that lack of trust. And so I think it's so much better for both sides when you have a sophisticated, confident person that owns the vision on the client side, and then the agency is there to help give them the vehicle to reach those goals, to achieve that vision. I think it's just a much healthier dynamic. I want to get into, you and I, in our first conversation we had a long conversation about RFPs. And we really kind of went deep on, okay, well, what's a good way to think about RFPs and what makes a good RFP? And I just was so thrilled when I got your first round of RFPs that came through, when you actually were able to go through it, create them, and release them, because I'm like, this is one of the most refreshing RFPs I've gone through at this point. And so I'd love to hear your journey of okay, we recognize there's some changes we need to make. There's, I'm shaking things up a little bit. We need to select some new partners, or we need to re-up partners that we're currently working with, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Here's how I'm structuring the RFP. And then I want to hear about how that helped with the selection process, because you and I haven't been able to talk as much about that.
Yeah. I honestly, it is a couple fold. It was a problem that I always knew existed, but didn't identify it in myself. I hate the RFP process. I don't know anyone that's like, yay, I get to write and then read a bunch of RFPs. And I don't know one agency that's like, yes, I want to create a 50-page document that's never going to be read. And so when I worked for the agency, it felt that way. And it's so much work on the agency side. And I think that helped a little bit come to the conclusion. I can empathize a little bit with that.
Yeah.
But from the client side and from the DMO side, it was, I never got what I wanted from it. And I ended up going with people that I was like, if I would have known this, then maybe I would have chose differently. Like that's happened before. And so it wasn't until, and I will give you and then our boy, Caleb Sullivan, some credit because I am a listener of the podcast. So I've heard you talk about it. And then Caleb posts this blog about it. And we're in the process of RFPing just about everything we're doing. Or in this motion of we want to work with the very best of the best in whatever project we're working on. And so that's a lot of RFPs coming down the pipeline. But what that also means is I've just known so many great agencies. Like I was really interested about your agency. There's so many other ones that I was like, I just want to learn more about them. I want to do of course, the vibe check, but also how do we align with our way of thinking? How do we align with this project specifically? So it's all of these things, and that your podcast as well as and our conversation that you and I had about it. And then when I saw that on Caleb, I was like, I'm just going to see if I can do it different. And I was like, it's enough talking about it. It's easier to just copy paste from an old RFP. And, we had done an old RFP here too. We did one for our visitor guide, but we're about to go through one of the biggest changes we've had in a long time, which is a huge rebrand, repositioning of our organization and the destination as a whole. And we had to get it right. So I got some permission from our CEO to keep the framework the same. It's still the outcome needed to be the same, but what kind of constraints did I have? We just needed to make sure it was 3 people, 3 agents, that was really it. And I will be completely truthful. I used AI. I put what I wanted the project to be. I uploaded Caleb's blog. I referenced things that you and I have talked about. And I was like, this is what I'm trying to achieve. Can you create a phased approach? Then there was a lot, me and Copilot had a lot of words to figure out what we did. But ultimately we came up with a multi-phased approach that not only it was very selective, we chose a certain amount of agencies instead of opening it up. And we paid agencies for their time. So what we did on phase 1 is we just sent a number of questions. And we had don't give me your spiel. I can see that on your website. Proof is in the pudding. You can send some case studies along, of course, but just answer these questions. And they were just they not only were vibe check questions, but they were experience questions and just approach questions to branding and research. And then from there, which we were able to kind of have a really cool realization of I love what they said here. We really align here. I want to hear more from them. So then we chose a number of agencies to move on to phase 2. And that's when we paid them a stipend. It wasn't a ton of money, but it was enough to say, we value your work. We know this is a lot of time. We know that we're not going to choose all of you. So we want this not to be for naught, but we want you to take it seriously too. And here's the project. And it was not asking for any kind of deliverable except for a discovery phase. Essentially, how do you think about our, from what I gave them some of my time ahead of time before they created their presentations, so they could all do that. And then they had all access to research and anything that we've done, our current brand, things like that. And then they created basically an in-depth discovery phase, and then they presented it to us. And I got to tell you, it was I can't believe I'm saying that an RFP process was fun, but it was really fun.
That's how it was a big change, right? From the way it's been before.
Yeah.
How clear was it at the end of that discovery process when you had paid the 3 agencies to take you through their discovery process? How clear was it who the right partner was going to be?
We actually did 4
Okay.
because we couldn't decide. So we did 4. And it was, it was very easy to find a top 2. And then after that, it got pretty, after we knew what kind of pro and con lists we wanted from that because of the types of questions we asked and because of some of those presentations that we had with them. And I wouldn't even call them like presentations. It was very collaborative the whole time.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't, and that was what was so cool, was like, it felt like you just felt the passion and excitement around what they do versus also like doing it for us. Like, you know, there was like a real commitment to it before we even signed on. And that was really neat to see. So the one we ultimately moved to phase 3, aligned with us on so many levels that it just got us all really, really excited. And more than anything, it was like inspiring because we're like, ooh, like, what, can we get that in real life? And then we're like, yes, we can get this in real life. So I didn't ask for scope of work or cost until that phase 3. And that also was a lot of trust. Yeah, that was a lot of trust from our CEO because it's like putting you in a wedding dress you can't afford. Like, or, you know, a realtor showing you a house that you can't afford. So you don't really know, but you just hope you're aligning all the things that you've talked about and the discovery that you've had with them. You're just hoping that they're aligning themselves with your destination. And we're in that phase right now. So I don't know if I'm in a wedding dress I can't afford yet, but we'll see.
I love the wedding dress analogy. I think that's really good. I think the process that you guys went through it's such a great example of, okay, well, what's the outcome we want? The outcome we want is the right partner to guide us through this very specific and impactful process that we need to accomplish, right? And there's no way reading a bunch of PDFs could have told you who the right partner was going to be. And in fact, there's also no way that a quick 30 to 45 minute conversation with the top 3 would have you have to work with them. You have to get in the trenches and see how your teams work together. And I'm curious, when you got through that phase 2, right, which was the discovery process, how important was how well our teams collaborate versus the big idea that was presented after the discovery process?
More than any of it. It was the very top, because ultimately the deciding factor between it was, I feel like we could get great results from either one of these, you know, like it was very much like, oh, we'd be safe with both of these. Like we would be in really good hands. Like they're really qualified, really, really smart, had really different approaches, which was really cool. I should mention this, every single agency approached phase 2 differently. And that was so cool because we got to see that showed us something different about them. Like, it's like, oh, this is how you think. Really cool. I like what you did there. So at the end of the day, though, we chose the ones that we were like, these are the people who feel like our team, but have skill sets that our team does not have. And it also is like, this is the person I want to stand in front of our elected officials. These are the people that I want to run those stakeholder conversations. This is the person, you know, and it was like, that's the team that I felt like really aligned with. And honestly, our selection committee, which was our internal team, everyone agreed. Like it wasn't, and that was cool too, because we're all different and we're all looking for something different. And I'm the only one who's gone through a rebrand process in this way. And so the other 2 came from a really different perspective, which was awesome. And that's also saying something, because one of the people on our selection committee, of course, was our CEO, and she doesn't do marketing and she doesn't touch marketing. And she was like, and this wasn't a heavy lift for her. We didn't add more like crazy amounts to her plate. But now I have her buy-in on everything moving forward, which is really valuable too.
Yeah, I think for destinations that are listening to this conversation, the takeaway that I want everybody to have here is the traditional RFP process, it would have been very difficult for Megan to find the partner that was actually going to be the right partner for them for this rebrand. But having this 3-phased approach and process made it very clear. I mean, what we're really looking for is who's the partner that our team can work the best with and achieve the outcome or solution that we're looking for. And a PDF is never going to tell you that. And so this paid sprint, I would call it, that you guys went through is incredibly valuable for both sides because it also provides the agency the opportunity to see kind of behind the curtain and whether or not this is a partner I want to work with,
Sure.
which is something that hasn't really been taken into consideration at all in the RFP process. And so I just think this is the way you've approached this, the health of the relationship that results at the end. I mean, we're not going to have an expectations gap. I say we. To be clear, I'm not the agency that was selected, so I don't want to make that sound like we're doing this together. But just in general, between the two organizations, there's not an expectations gap because you've spent so much time on expectations between each other. And like you said, you haven't even signed the final contract yet. You're in essentially the scoping process right now. But you know this is the partner that you want to work with. Expectations are going to be abundantly clear on both sides. The other thing that happens, and I'm sorry, I'm on a little bit of a rant here, but pricing. Agencies are asked to price before they truly have a full understanding of what the project is going to be, which inevitably results in unmet expectations on one side or the other. Now they know exactly what they need to do with this rebrand process. They know exactly how many board meetings they need to attend, how many elected officials they're going to need to sit down with, and so on and so forth, because you guys went through that process, and the pricing will match the actual product. And anyway, I'm going to stop my rant of how important it is to change the RFP process, but I think you guys have done a really nice job of a much more accurate selection process.
No, and honestly, it was, I mean, kudos obviously to you and Caleb for putting out that kind of content for, I would not have had the bravery to change status quo in order to do it. But one of the things, every single agency made a comment about it. Every single one. Even the ones that we didn't, the ones that I never even spoken to before. I just liked what they were doing. They all responded with, wow, this is really different. And the ones that went through the whole process, every single one of them was like, thank you. And I was like, no, thank you.
Awesome.
Like, this has been really fun. So that whole process, my coworker and I were laughing. We're like, man, if we could trademark this RFP and sell it, like we'd have, and that's our additional revenue source.
No kidding.
Here's the template. But we won't. If you would like, I'm more than happy to share. So anyone can ask me for it. I'm more than happy to share the outline, at least of what we did. And you can tailor it to your own destination. But I'm more than happy to share that because it did work so well for us. And and I love hearing from agencies that it was mutually beneficial to go through that kind of process.
Awesome. It's so funny. We had a whole outline of stuff that we intended to talk about today. And we're going to have to do a second episode, Megan,
Sure.
where we go through some of the items that we didn't get to. But I really appreciate you coming on and sharing. I mean, to me, it's a little uncomfortable to say, hey, I did something different than everyone else is doing. But man, the results kind of speak for themselves as far as the experience that you had. I'd love to maybe boil it down for destination marketers that are listening to a key piece of advice. And it doesn't have to be the RFP process, but what have you learned in your role at the Wilmington and Beaches Convention and Visitors Bureau that other destination marketers could learn from and that would benefit them in their role?
I think we're all right now talking about that relevancy part that you were talking about. I actually just was on a call earlier today about that. And we're all in that kind of switch between old expectations and new expectations for our organizations and our roles within those. And I think we need to stop thinking like DMOs. I just think we need to start thinking of get the past kind of what we always were supposed to be doing, supposed to be doing behind us, and grab that inspiration from elsewhere, and go outside industry to find it. Lean on the, be a sponge to that. Like, I mean, and it is, I was scared because I was like, not only like I'm asking for us to take budget money that we all need right now to put towards this new way of doing it, but also if it doesn't work, like if it doesn't work, then, I just convinced, my boss, who had complete faith. It was like not a hard sell, I will say. Again, she's a great mentor to have. But it is a little scary to jump out. But you also, to my previous point, you're never jumping alone. Like, it was never just me sending an RFP by myself. I had the backing of my CEO. I had the backing of my team that was going to do it too. And then the buy-in from the agencies too. So once it's like, don't be afraid to have the new idea. Don't be afraid to get the maybe partner with someone a little unexpected, because we're starting to do that locally too, and grasp at new ways to shake things up a little bit. And to get back truly to what we are here for, which is for our communities.
Yeah.
The avenue to grow our communities is through the visitor, but it's not. Don't be mistaken just because we're talking to visitors that it's not for the community and the community that we all live and love. So I think that that's been ultimately the driving force between all the change that we've made as a team. And it's been really fun. And this next year's, do a health check on me this next year when I literally am changing. We're going through rebrand, repositioning, website, campaign, all of the above. So health check on me later.
I most definitely will. And you know what? We do have to do a follow-up episode and get to some of the additional items that we wanted to get through. So, Megan, for one, this has been really valuable, and I appreciate you taking the time. If people want to learn more about you or Wilmington, or more importantly, if they want a copy of the RFP that you sent out, what's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
My email is so long, but you can find it on the Wilmington and Beaches website. Buchbinder is not an easy last name to spell. So it is, you can email me, absolutely. But please find me on LinkedIn. That's the best part of being in this industry, is connecting with everybody. And that's, and nobody has ever turned away my phone call like yours when I randomly emailed you and was like, I like what you said. Can I just talk to you? And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about our industry, is that every single person I've asked that for, the answer has always been yes. And now, and your network just grows and grows.
100%. Well, Megan, thank you so much. This has been fantastic.
Thanks, Adam.
And thanks everybody for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to leave us a rating or a review. It helps us continue to bring you amazing guests like Megan. Thanks everybody, and have a great week. The websites in our industry are built for the past, not the future. And we've got a major, major problem with that. These are glorified directories that have been entirely designed to deliver bottom of funnel metrics, clicks, and impressions to the stakeholders that we serve. But we all know that at some point that house of cards is going to come crashing down. And the purpose of a DMO is to inspire travel. We lost that vision along the way when we were building these websites, and the pendulum has got to swing back. We've built, in conjunction with a company called Destination Core, a very unique content-first website product that's built specifically to help engage and inspire visitors to book a trip to the destination. So if your website is at all a pain point for you, make sure you hit me up, adam@thebrandrevolt.com. We'll take a look at what you've got going on. And of course, this only makes sense for people who are building genuine inspirational content for their audiences. And if you are, you need a content-first CMS and website that attracts visitation and inspires visitation to your destination. So hit me up, adam@thebrandrevolt.com.